Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our WIC cooking demonstration for the month. So today we're going to be making a really yummy veggie-packed meal that's called cauliflower fried rice. So some of you may have heard of this before, but what you do is instead of using rice in your fried rice recipe, you just make some really tiny cauliflower that can substitute as the rice. That's just a nice way to get in some extra vegetables, maybe convince your kiddos to try some things that they might not have tried before. And it's just really yummy and it can be very customizable. So we're gonna go ahead and get started and I'll show you how to make this delicious fried rice. So I have my pan already heating up. I used a little bit of this spray oil. You can use any oil that you have at home. We just use this one. And then what we're gonna do first is just to heat up our onions, garlic, green onions, and then also our frozen carrots and peas. So we're just going to heat all of these things up, make sure that they cook down a little bit, and then we can add in the other ingredients. So I already have half of an onion all chopped up. So we're just going to use half of a white onion today, but you can use any onion that you have at home. So this is just on a medium-high heat, just to get some color, make your house smell really nice and yummy. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. And then we have these beautiful spring onions that we're going to use. And so what's special about these is you're just going to use the white part and the light green part to saute, and then the brighter green part up at the top we're just going to use as a garnish towards the end. So these parts don't need to be cooked as long. So we're just going to cook these white and light green parts first. So I'm just going to chop off the root. And then I'm just going to add in the white part in with our other onion that's already cooking. So like I said, we're just going to use the white and light green part, and then we'll come back to the bright green part for later. I'm going to dump these in here. I'm just going to go throw out the roots and I'll be right back. All right. Now we can start chopping up our garlic. We're just going to use 2 cloves of garlic today. And if you have some that's like pre-chopped garlic, you can use that. We're just using fresh garlic today. Or if you don't have fresh garlic, but you have some garlic powder, that would be yummy too. So we're just going to make sure that this is all nice and chopped up really fine, so you don't get any big chunks of garlic in the fried rice. I think this recipe would be really good with some fresh ginger too. So if you have any fresh ginger, that would be really yummy. But today we're just going to be using the onions and garlic as our main flavor sources. Okay. This is all nice and chopped up. I'll go ahead and add the garlic into the pan as well. The onions are starting to get a bit of color on them, which is good. Make sure you get all the garlic off your knife too. And then we have a cup of frozen peas and carrots. So if you didn't know, you can actually get frozen fruits and vegetables with your WIC benefits, um, which is a really nice way to make sure that you're still getting fruits and veggies into your diet, but it can be really easy and you don't have to prep them. You can just grab them right out of the freezer and toss them into recipes just like this one. So it can be a really easy way to get some more veggies into your diet. And then another thing that's in the frozen section is actually the rice cauliflower. And so this is cauliflower that's already been processed the way that we're going to process it today. So if you don't have a food processor, and if you don't find any fresh cauliflower, this can be a really good alternative. And you can just grab it out of the frozen section and just make sure that the only ingredient is cauliflower, and then you'll be able to purchase it with your WIC benefits. So that's a really nice way you can make this recipe really, really easy. So that's the one option for the cauliflower. And then what we did, we actually just used a food processor, and the cauliflower is really nice and small, basically like the size of a grain of rice or couscous. And they're not all completely the same size, but that's okay. But you could also just chop it up with a knife and make sure it's really fine. Or if you have a cheese grater, you can use a grater for your cauliflower. So lots of different ways to get your cauliflower nice and small. But if you are trying to limit how many carbs you're eating, this could be a good way to substitute a low carb, high vegetable option instead of rice for your fried rice. So I'm just going to give this a stir. And the onions are browning and softening. And the veggies don't look to be frozen anymore. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in this cauliflower into the pan with everything else that's been cooking. So this cauliflower is going to give us a lot of really healthy nutrients, a lot of fiber. Um, and that's just a great way to make sure that your family is getting some good servings of vegetables, and then also just making it so that you're trying a variety of different fruits and veggies. So I really like this recipe because it doesn't really look like you're eating vegetables, and it looks like you're maybe having like Chinese takeout or something fun like that. But it's really just a great serving of vegetables. And so while this is cooking, I'm also going to add in 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, just so that there's some water from the soy sauce that'll help steam everything so it gets evenly cooked. So I'm just going to stir in the soy sauce, and we're still on a medium-high heat. And I'm going to put the lid back on just so that all of the cauliflower can get cooked through. You don't want it to be too overcooked because then it might get a little bit soggy, but we're just going to make sure it's cooked all the way through so it's not too crunchy. And it smells really good. Okay. So we're going to put the lid back on here, and now we can focus on the other part of this recipe, which is the eggs, which will go in with the fried rice. So today we'll be using 3 eggs, and we're also going to separate the egg yolk from the egg white for 2 of them. So one of the eggs is just going to be like normal. So we'll just crack 1 egg in here. That's our first egg. And now these next 2 eggs, we're just going to use the egg white. So you can save the yolk for a different recipe. That way this recipe is just a little bit lower in fat. So what you do when you're separating the egg yolk is you want to get two pretty even halves of the egg. We'll try. And we'll keep the yolk on one side. And then we'll just flop over to the other side with the yolk. And then keep going back and forth until most of the egg white gets removed from the yolk. All right. And now just the yolk, so we can put that in a little cup right here. And then I'm going to do that one more time. Also, if you have those little containers of egg whites, you can use that too if you don't want to separate them. We're just going to go back and forth. I was nervous about doing that on camera, but it went okay. So if I can do it on camera, I'm sure you can do it as well. So that's our two egg whites and one egg. I'm just going to wash my hands off. I got a little bit eggy. And then before I put the eggs into my hot pan, I'm just going to stir them up so I get this yolk nice and combined with the egg whites. And then we'll cook these basically like you would cook a scrambled egg. We're just going to cook them in this pan separately. And then we'll add them in with the rest of the fried rice on this side. But the egg is just a great way to get some protein into this recipe, some healthy fats as well. And it makes it a lot more similar to the fried rice that you would get like from a takeout place. So hopefully your kids don't even notice the difference. We got that all mixed up. So I'm just going to cook that in this pan over here. And with eggs, what I like to do is I kind of just drag back and forth. And it should be really quick to cook these up. And we're just doing this separately so that we can get some nice chunks of egg and make sure that they're all cooked evenly. Because if we put them just right into that big pan, they might not cook as evenly. And so this is really a fast way to scramble up some eggs, which I'm sure y'all have done a bunch of times before. So these are all scrambled up. And they'll cook a little bit more once they get mixed in with that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off on these. And this will make that rice nice and satisfying and yummy. So I'm just going to take this off the heat. And then the last thing that we're going to prepare is just those green onions. We're going to chop up the rest of these to stir in with the rice. And this recipe could be used as a side dish or even as a main dish. So if your family is vegetarian, you're getting your protein from the egg, but you're also more than welcome to add any other protein source that your family likes to eat. I think this would be really yummy with like some shrimp or some chicken. Or if your family doesn't eat meat, you could also use some tofu. That can be an easy way to get in some extra protein as well. So all of the green onions are chopped up. So we're going to go ahead and check on the rice, see how it's going. Oop. Made a mess here. All right. But as you can see, it's cooked down quite a bit. There's a little bit more water in the pan. So we'll cook it for the rest of the time with the lid off, just so that that water can evaporate. And it smells really good. Smells nice and garlicky and like onions, and you can smell the soy sauce. And so now what we can do just to finish up the recipe is we will put these green onions in. These just don't need much time to cook. We're just gonna stir them in right at the end of cooking, along with our eggs. And also, the final ingredient is just our sesame oil. So this is just a tablespoon of sesame oil. And it is recommended to add sesame oil towards the end of a recipe, just because it's not really for cooking as much as it is for flavor. So you don't really need to use it for sauteing or anything like that. We're just using it to add some nice flavor. And it smells so good. But if you are also using this as a main dish and you did want some carbohydrates in your meal, you could mix this in with rice as well. I know some people like to do that, so they have part of it as cauliflower and part of it as rice. So if you have some brown rice that you've purchased with your WIC benefits, this could be a good way to use that. But yeah, it's very simple, very delicious. And this would also be good to pack up for lunches. I'm sure it would make great leftovers. But yeah, it's such a yummy and quick recipe with lots of vibrant colors, lots of fiber, protein, different nutrients. And it can be an easy way to add in any leftover fruits or not fruits, any other veggies that you might have in your fridge. I think like bell pepper would be really yummy, zucchini, if you had any like frozen edamame, really anything that you have that you're trying to get rid of, this would be a great recipe to use up those finalized ingredients for that. I like to make fried rice all the time because it's just pretty easy to make, and the cauliflower will make it so that it's nice and healthy for y'all too. But yeah, as you can see, the water has evaporated now, and it pretty much just looks like regular fried rice. I'll show y'all over here. This is what it looks like. It makes a good amount too. So we used one head of cauliflower for this recipe. And I think that's a good size for using it for a family of four to have as a side dish. But thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, just leave them down below. And we'll also be posting the recipe in the comments below. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you at 2 p.m. for the Spanish version. Have a great day. Bye.